Welcome to DEMOCREPUBLIX, where we cover the real news that matter to we the people. Strange Jeep followed the intelligence community inspector general investigators probing Hillary email scandal. Investigators' house broken into, computers stolen, trash rummaged through. According to the Gateway Pundit, a new Senate report released by Grassley, the intelligence community inspector general who was probing the Hillary Clinton email scandal, believed the individual on the team was leaking information to the media. His legal counsel had ties to the Clintons. Frank Rucker and several of his fellow ICIG investigators who were probing the Hillary Clinton email scandal were also followed by a strange Jeep for several weeks. Recall, Frank Rucker and other ICIG investigators discovered Hillary Clinton's email were hacked by China and confronted the FBI about the anomaly they found on Hillary's server. Peter Strzok ignored these warnings from the ICIG investigators and seemed indifferent, according to the Senate report. One of the ICIG investigators was followed from the State Department to his home, where someone broke into his house and stole all of his computers. Another investigator realized someone rummaged through his recycling bin in his home looking for paperwork. Rucker was asked for a moment to consult with counsel. After conferring for a minute or so, he said that raised several other issues during his interview with the DOJ OIG, including whether somebody from the ICIG was leaking to the media. Mr. Rucker said that it was a small group at ICIG that was working on the Clinton email issue, so it was a concern for Mr. McCullough that somebody was leaking, the Senate report said. The suspected leaker, Paul Wagerman, who was counsel at the ICIG, is the son of a pastor to the Clintons. Quote, he said that Mr. McCullough considered pulling and examining everybody's phone records during the time of the Podesta hack. Mr. Rucker said that there was an email to the Clinton attorney, David Kendall, referencing redacted and a favorite son. He said that Paul Wagerman, who was then a counsel at the ICIG and whose father was allegedly a pastor to the Clintons, was the only male employee on leave the following day when a meeting with redacted was supposed to take place, according to the email. Therefore, he said, it was believed that Mr. Wagerman was leaking to redacted. He said that Mr. McCullough made a decision not to confront Mr. Wagerman. Mr. Rucker said that he does not believe that the ICIG ever did any official assessment on whether Mr. Wagerman leaked classified information, the Senate report stated. So I'm going to stop right here for a minute. Wouldn't you think the DOJ would want to know if someone was leaking information? And who is the person or the group they were leaking this information to is another question. More than likely, someone connected to the Clintons. But the article goes on to say that Mr. Wagerman reportedly pushed very hard to be included on the investigation, but he was not part of it. According to the report, Mr. Wagerman now works at OD&I as a mole in the mission integration department. Mr. Rucker said that, to his knowledge, nobody ever confronted Mr. Wagerman about it. He said that they all signed a non-disclosure agreements or NDAs regarding their work at the ICIG. Rucker said a strange Jeep was following him and other ICIG investigators involved in the Hillary Clinton email probe. Quote, Mr. Rucker said that a few odd things were happening that were also discussed. He said that a Jeep once followed the ICIG, McCullough, from the State Department to the door of his house. Mr. Rucker said that he himself had a Jeep following him at odd hours. He said that for 2 weeks, the same Jeep followed him on Route 50. Mr. Rucker said that he could not recall the exact time frame of when this occurred, nor did he record the Jeep's license plate, which I think is odd right there. I think anybody else probably would have reported it to the police or something that they were being followed. I think it's kind of weird that he didn't report any of this. But it's basically intimidation. they wanted to intimidate the guy. They wanted him to know he was being followed, because if they really didn't want him to know, there are ways to follow people without them knowing. So they wanted McCullough to know he was being followed, I believe. But the article goes on to say that one of the investigators' homes was broken into and all of the computers were stolen. Another investigator discovered that someone rummaged through his recycling bin at home. He said that Mr. Hatchett had a burglary at his home and all of his computers were stolen. He said that Mr. McCullough discovered that someone was sorting through his recycling bin at home and leaving separate stacks of items outside of the bin as if they were looking for papers, the Senate report said. Despite this obvious cover-up and rampant corruption surrounding Hillary Clinton's email investigation, there has been zero indictments of the deep state. And I don't understand why no one's been arrested for any of this yet. Well, I kind of do understand. They're covering it up. Everybody know the Clintons got get out of jail free cards, so they basically do what they want and get away with it. But let me know what you think. Leave your comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe, and check out DEMOCREPUBLIX.com for the latest in news. Until next time. We live in a real nightmare. We live in a real nightmare.